Hello and welcome to the Walk Off, everybody. I'm Scott Belford, joined as always by the best co-host in the biz, Adam Mack. And guess what, buddy? Our Toronto Blue Jays are looking like a watchable team the last few days. 15 and 16 coming into May. Here we are on the second of the fifth month of the year. And after 31 days in which we had kind of summed up at the beginning of this season, if they could come into May right around 500, they've set themselves up pretty good. Do you still feel that way, Mr. Mack?
Logically I should. I just
Yes.
am disappointed. I don't know.
That
I think maybe
said,
because of the start we had. We did have like a pretty good start. I felt
they
like,
were 5 games above 500 at one point, and I mean these last two games against Boston with the emergence of the home run, all of a sudden waltzing onto the playing field, sure felt good. My God, man, did this team ever need that? So we are going to dive in here today. Thank you so much, everybody, for clicking on that link. Hit the subscribe button if you are new to the channel. Hit the like button. It goes a long way. So we are going to dive in here. We're going to talk this Boston series a little bit, and then Adam is going to deliver his three studs and a dud, a segment we do every single Friday, and we're keeping tallies throughout the year in 2025. Now, I know we've done this segment for a few years now, but this time we're keeping track of those scores so that by the end of the year we have our definitive stud.
you know,
Jeff Hoffman and Jimmy Garcia are the most dominant relievers in baseball right now, if not pretty darn close. We're going to dive into what those two guys are doing for this team. The top half of the batting order finally coming to life, bringing the dingers, and it couldn't come at a more important time. Arjun Namala and Trey Yasavich have been incredible for the Blue Jays farm system. Namala in Vancouver with the Canadians, high A, and Yasavich with the low A Dunedin Blue Jays, probably making his trek to Vancouver in the next month with the way he has dominated. So we'll touch on that. Then we do a mini mailbag. Again, I know we missed mailbag on Tuesday and Wednesday. We even had planned to try and get one out yesterday, and things just didn't line up. So we're doing a little mini mailbag within Friday's show here. And then we take a look around the AL East before diving into this upcoming Jays Guardians series. On that, did you happen to see the 6-0 comeback by this team on Wednesday, Adam?
it's if I'm being honest, it's been a lot of J's and 30 for me this week.
Okay. Yes.
So did see it, not live. J's and 30 is not the same. I get it. It's not the emotional roller coaster, but it is, I think, gets you a game. Like you understand what happened, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I was at that game at Rogers Center. And, buddy,
Ooh.
let me tell you, the lifelessness of the crowd. Like, at 6-0, I had just kind of resided to the fact that I was watching another blowout. I was at the game before as well, where they lost 11-2. Taylor, my wife and I, we just literally we went with my mom was in town and then my cousin was in town, so we went to two games back to back. And the fact that they came back, man, I haven't felt energy in the Rogers Center like that since 2023. It was palpable. It went
Yeah.
from a large group of people just resided to the fact that they are cheering for a team that just constantly brings them heartbreak to a group of fans who honestly all of a sudden started to believe again. Seeing Dalton Varsho and Alejandro Kirk go dinger dinger back to back like that. Watching Anthony Santander hit a 3-run bomb to tie it up and then to watch them win it in extra innings. This is something this team has not done this year. It's not something that this team did last year. When they are down, they have been out until Wednesday. And then to watch Vladdy repeat that and come from behind again late in
Mhm.
the game with a dinger. This is what this team has lacked in 2025 is that home run swing. The middle of the order has not been what we needed them to be. Vladdy's numbers have been good. He just hasn't been going deep. Anthony Santander, I mean, my God, man. Watching the clip of him after that last day in April when he finally got the monkey off his back and tied the game with a big 3-run bomb, and he's just screaming, fuck yeah, April's over. Like, just it was in his head, right? Like think about that. That you're running down the dugout hallway and your first thing to do is scream out, April's over. Thank the good Lord above. Like and Blue Jays fans echoed that sentiment. So Boston losing this series despite still outscoring them. I mean, that 11-2 win really put things in perspective, but they did get 2 out of 3. That's all you need to do when you're playing a division rival. I think that qualifies as a pretty big win, and it's definitely going to help with the 3 studs and a dud segment because instead of us needing to do what we did last week, which was really you had to put some real effort in to find three
Yeah.
studs. I mean, we were giving out studs to guys that in a regular week wouldn't even get a mention. So we actually have good news to go on here. So let's hear what you got for us this week, Adam.
Okay. Before I do, I just want to mention Blue Jays now 5-2 against the Red Sox in the season series. So
Mm-hmm.
that's good. Something to build on. We'll be battling them for a wild card, I'm sure, at the end of the year. So let's keep it going. Okay. Stud number 3, starting pitcher, the Toronto Blue Jays, Jose Barrios. 12
Yeah,
innings pitched, 12 Ks. Just 2 earned runs.
love it.
Was the most reliable by a mile that we got from our starting pitchers. Bassett, 5 2/3 innings, 4 earned runs. Gossman had an ugly game.
Yeah.
Francis had an ugly game. It's basically all we have for starting pitchers right now. Okay, let's move on to stud number 2. There was some hitters that could have made the list here. But stud number 2, Jeff Hoffman.
Yeah. He's piling
Uh,
up those stud points.
he's piling up those stud points. So 2 more games this week. 1 save opportunity and 1 save. Did also have the victory in that extra innings game where he came in the 9th, pitched in the 10th as well. Man, has he ever been good?
Fun little Jeff Hoffman stat, Adam.
Please.
He has the most saves on the team and the most wins.
Interesting little wrinkle there. I
You're
was
like, I
looking
don't know
at,
how much I like that for our starters, but good.
yeah. Um, I guess it's also an indication. That's the thing is like I don't know where to go with that. Is that more of a strike against our starters, or is it more of a strike against our middle
Middle
bullpen?
relievers. Yeah, I don't
Right.
know.
I'm looking at the saves leaders for Major League Baseball right now. Jeff Hoffman has just 6 saves through 13 games, but like you said, 3 wins. Robert Suarez of the Padres leads baseball with 12 saves.
Wow. Mr. Fastball. Like that
Yeah,
one thing I do love about Robert Suarez is there are so few pitchers out there who are just like, "Hey, I throw this one pitch 100% of the time and
good luck.
succeed." And he
Mhm.
is one of those guys. The rip on his fastball is insane. The dip he gets, like it's just anyways, Robert Suarez.
So if you're looking at relievers in baseball and you're wondering how good has Hoffman been, and you're looking at the saves leaders, because that's the easy one to click on, right? And see, wow, who's having a dominant season as a closer, right? Suarez with 12, Munoz in Seattle with 11. Kyle Finnegan in Washington has 10. Mason Miller of the Athletics has 10. Athletics, sneaky, having a good season this year.
Yeah.
Um, Jeff Hoffman way down at 11 with 6 saves. But then you look at the numbers of all those guys I just listed. I'm on the top 25 on page 1 of MLB.com stats, and Hoffman leads all of them in strikeouts. So, for whatever that's worth. Also has a pretty elite whip and opponent batting average. So, Robert Suarez, who leads baseball in saves, has a whip of 0.57. Munoz in Seattle, 0.73. Then you go down to Jeff Hoffman, 0.59 for
Wow.
a whip. So he is getting it done, just lacking save opportunities.
Hmm.
It's the only thing keeping him off that top leaderboard. But man, the 2 inning outings
Love it.
are
This is something we haven't
just so
had
incredible.
as Blue Jays fans in I don't know how long. In fact, name a guy we've ever had who can come in for 2 inning saves. Love it. Such
Love it.
a huge advantage to have in the back end of that bullpen, the option to do that.
Big time, big time. Jordan Romano, by the way, 2 saves with the Phillies through 12 games and has a whip over 2.
Yeah.
So
Really hope he figures it out. I know that there's some Jays fans out there cheering for his demise, which I don't really get. Seems like a shitty thing to do because I really think he has been so good for this organization over the years. But
yeah, like how can you ever root against a guy
yeah,
who didn't like do anything? He didn't demand to leave. He wasn't
no,
like trade me, I hate it here.
no,
So, anyways, there you go. That's stud number 2. Stud number 1, finally, Vladimir Guerrero Jr.
yeah,
Leads the team in home runs now with 4 after 3 home runs this week.
won the
I
game
don't know what else to
yesterday.
say.
That
It's
that
good.
that game, 3-run home run wins the game. I mean, this is the thing with dingers, right? I know Ross Atkins feels this is low hanging fruit, but my God, man, give me that low hanging fruit when you can come back from a deficit like 6-0, when you can come back from 2-1 and put some distance between yourself and the team you're playing. Uh, Go Vladdy, go! Like keep going,
Go,
man.
Vladdy, go,
Let's
indeed.
let's let's see some big home run totals in May from Vladdy and Santander. Would be awesome.
Honorable mention almost went to Dalton Varsho.
Yeah, he just didn't
Dalton
play enough.
Varsho, spectacular defensively. That play where he fell down and then still got up and Harlem Globetrotted it behind his back, or I guess Savannah Bananaed it behind his
Yeah,
back is a better reference there. Um, the other one, the other day, he crashed into the wall. Yeah, like he's just great. Two
yeah,
home runs to go with it. Only reason he's going to lose out to this next guy is small sample size. So 10 at bats through 3 games for Dalton Varsho, a 300 batting average, an OPS of 1362, thanks largely to the 2 home runs there. However, playing in 5 games with 21 at bats and a batting average slightly better at 333, Alejandro Kirk, who
yeah.
had a home run of his
Kirky,
own
Kirky
and
really coming
a
alive here this week.
game-winning walk-off hit. So timely hitting from Kirk. It's nice to see because I don't need a 300 hitter out of Kirk, but man, if he can be anything more than like an auto out, and I'm happy to see it. He's playing really well defensively, throwing out a lot of base runners, well above league average.
Hmm.
I'm happy with Kirk. I'm happy with Kirk currently. Hopefully, he can keep this up.
I think he's turned a corner offensively. I think he has found that
Hope
swing
so.
with the exit velo again, and that's so important in today's game. So yeah, hopefully David Popkins and the hitting crew in Toronto has kind of got Kirky right, and May we just soar with dingers in the middle of that lineup, and April's behind us, and we never talk about this again.
Indeed. Off to the dud side of things. Let's start with the dishonorable mention. Almost Gossman.
Yeah.
2 2/3 innings, 5 walks and 3 hits for 6 runs. ERA over 20 from Gary Gossman this week. Almost a dud.
We are going to get into Gary Gossman a little bit here for everyone who
Okay.
doesn't know. Obviously, we're well aware it's Kevin Gossman. Years ago, we
Running
made a mistake
jokes.
and called him Gary Gossman, and we've been making that reference ever since. So if you're
Indeed.
sick of it,
Indeed.
apologies. If you've never heard it and think it's stupid, apologies. For the three of you who follow along and
All
think
right.
it's funny, there you go.
There you go. I'm one of the three. All right. Dishonorable mention goes to Andres Jimenez.
hmm He's been struggling.
Man, such a good start to the season. I really thought, I mean, whatever. It's still early, let's be honest,
Yeah,
right? It's on the later side of it's still early, but here we are. That first opening weekend when he hit
yeah.
3 dingers was like, holy smokes, like
He found something.
Hopkins has
Yeah.
solved it, right? Like we've got this is how it's going to be. Um, he went 0 for 16 this week.
hmm
That's a big 0 for.
So is he the
He
dud
did
or he's dishonorable mention?
he's dishonorable mention.
And is Gary Gosman also dishonorable?
Not
He's
no, he was
he's
close. Yeah, I just wanted to point out how bad he was. Same
okay.
way Dalton Varsho was almost an honorable mention.
Boy, after hearing these two dishonorable mentions, or well, like almost dishonorable and
Yeah.
dishonorable, who's the dud?
Dud this week. Francis Bowden. Bowden Francis.
Bowden Francis. Yeah.
3 innings pitched, ERA of 21. Gave up what was it? 7 earned runs in 3 innings. Gave up 8 hits. This is what really sunk his boat this week. 5 home runs.
Yeah, he could not keep the
That's tough
ball in
to
the
ignore.
park. He could not keep the ball in the park. This is the worst start for Bowden Francis in since last year for sure. It's interesting because I was listening to 590 The Fan here in Toronto, the sports radio network here in the Big Smoke. I was kind of surprised at how much they tore Francis apart for this and almost came across like they stopped believing in him, which I think is ridiculous. Personally, I think every pitcher has one of these blips on the radar where they just
Yeah, of course.
they can't keep it in the park for a day or they're just a little off and whatever that for whatever reason the other team dials in on that and puts up a bunch of runs and a crooked number. That's honestly what I think happened. But I did want to throw this to you, Adam, and just
Yeah.
see when you hear that there's sports analysts out there who after one start are like maybe he's not who we thought he is. Like how long of a sample size does this kid have to put up before these sort of things go away?
Well, he's now 19 starts into his Major League Baseball career, 171 innings, including some relief innings. It's 6 games into the season, and he had the really one bad outing.
Yeah.
And I know you're putting this to me because I've been the Francis skeptic dating
Yes.
back to last season,
Yes.
the doubter even.
hmm You've wanted
Um,
to believe,
I
but
wanted to believe,
you
but I
always
just
need to see
haven't.
more.
I need to see more. And yeah, now I'm at the point where if this was week 1, I'd be like, yeah, this is scary. 2 out of the first 3 weeks were like this. Yeah, I would say, okay, he's been figured out. He's been Davis Schneidered, if you
hmm
will. I don't know, man. I would lean on this as just a blip
I think so
at this
too.
point.
Yeah, I just don't buy it right now
So
that he is
the
completely
highs have been too high and the lows have been too infrequent to just go, oh, he's a bust. He's washed.
Yeah.
The real Francis has shown up. Like, let's be real.
Grounds crew, let us know. What do you think? Bowden Francis, this is just a blip, right? And if you don't think it is, explain why. And we'll dive into this on Mailbag on Tuesday because he's one of the starters in this rotation that there were definite question marks coming into the year of is he for real? But I really do think he's done enough to prove he is who he is and that this is just a one-time thing where yeah, they had him they were dialed in on him and he couldn't keep it in the park. And as soon as that happens, it's going to be trouble for any pitcher.
Um, the ERA numbers are inflated now because of this last outing, but our ERA leaders for starting pitchers this season, Chris Bassett, 262, Jose Barrios, 398, Gary Gossman, 4.5, Bowden Francis, 528.
Mm-hmm. And
Was his
again, Bowden
last?
Francis's numbers are back in the threes if you eliminate the one start. I know that's not how baseball and stats work, but if you're going to give him a little leeway, just know his regular numbers are still very solid.
Um, yeah. So hopefully there's a bounce back coming.
Yeah.
I'll say this, definitely not ready to panic on Bowden Francis
Mm-hmm.
yet. Um, the way I was with
He's
Easton Lucas.
earned. He's earned us giving him a pass. Let's be serious. I mean,
Correct.
this guy
Correct.
was lights out. He was the only reason this team was worth watching in September last year. Like he was literally
Yeah.
the one bright spot outside of getting to see some of the kids that they brought in at the trade deadline. So to just turn on him after one start, not into it.
Easton Lucas, remember him?
Sure do.
So his game logs started great,
Mm-hmm.
continued to be great, then got ugly quick. So first start, 0 earned runs through 5. Second start, 0 earned runs through 5. Third start, 8 earned runs, including 3 home runs through 5. And then his next start, 6 earned runs through 1 2/3 innings, including 2 home runs given
And
up.
this is, again, he couldn't keep the ball in the park. This is the problem with guys getting blown up. And that's normally what you can point to when you see those big crooked numbers, right? It's like, yeah, guys were hitting it out.
Now, Easton Lucas, not a young prospect, 28. By no means did those 2 games end his career, but they did end his stint with the Jays,
Mm-hmm.
putting up a real ugly stinker, followed by a really ugly stinker. Now, reason I bring this up is because the resume to date for Bowden Francis, although it is still like in the grand scheme of things, a small sample size, is large enough where even if his next start is ugly, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
He would need to struggle to the level of like you start thinking he's got the yips.
Yeah.
We're talking 4 starts in a row, as bad as his most recent one, before you start to go, all right, something's not right with this kid.
Mm-hmm.
We got to send him down to AAA to figure it out.
Or start looking into injury possibilities, right? Like,
Sure,
that's the
either
thing.
way,
Like,
yeah. So I would just say he should be going into his next start still feeling pretty loosey goosey,
yeah.
pretty relaxed. Because even if he puts up 4 innings, 4 earned runs kind of a day, his job's pretty secure based on his own merit, but also based on the lack of options. So, Bowden Francis not going anywhere. Hopefully, there's a bounce back coming.
And on that, do you have the year to date stud dud totals?
I don't.
Okay.
I'm
That's
at
fine.
my dad's office here, if you can tell.
It's
So
fine. We'll
I
tally
don't
it
have
up
it
and
next
we'll
week.
we'll get that next week.
Okay.
Moving on to the back end of our bullpen. I mean, Hoffman was just given stud number 2, and he has been absolutely incredible. I mean, you did touch on it. He's at 6 saves, 22 Ks in 15.1 innings, a 1.17 ERA. He's already accumulated 1.1 wins above replacement and has been honestly the most lights out closer in baseball. And I know that Robert Suarez has more saves. I know there's guys with more saves. He just has not allowed walks. He has not allowed hits. He's been just absolutely dynamite. And what's really interesting with Jeff Hoffman is that it has been since 2015. I've been trying to rack my brain as to the last time that I felt as good about the back two guys in the bullpen as I do right now, which is Jimmy Garcia,
Yeah.
who we are going to get into his numbers in a second because he is being overshadowed right now by a bunch of other relievers with more saves and stuff. But you start getting into the nitty gritty of Jimmy's numbers, and they are literally lights out. But Jeff Hoffman, when you look at the ability to go 2 innings and having that backup plan of Jimmy Garcia, we saw it yesterday, right? Hoffman came out on Wednesday in that big comeback win, 6-0 down, win 7-6. Hoffman comes in, he pitches the ninth, he pitches the 10th, unavailable yesterday. Who comes in? Oh, if it isn't Jimmy Garcia with a modest 14 innings under his belt, a whip of 0.71, yet to allow a run, just running around in May with a 0 ERA on his stats and 18 Ks.
Yeah,
So
it's
trying to come up with
spectacular.
two guys, and I got to go back to 2015 with a Roberto Osuna and a young Aaron Sanchez yet
Mhm.
to really be given full reign with his starting opportunity. And before that, Dwayne Ward and Tom Hankey in the World Series runs. And correct me if I'm wrong, grounds crew. Go ahead. I know there's a bunch of mega nerds watching who probably have better examples. That's the only thing I can come up with. And I would even argue there's a possibility that Jimmy and Hoffman are better than Osuna and Sanchez were. So fingers crossed it keeps going. I mean, as long as these two can stay healthy, knock on all the wood. But they have been absolutely, I mean, unbeatable.
Yeah, I'm racking my brain too here, and I'm browsing through old closers that we've had over the years.
And
Having a tough
again,
time.
small sample size, but I guess what I'm saying is enjoy it, Blue Jays fans. This is a rarity. We don't always have this sort of a surety when we're talking about the back end of a bullpen. I loved Jordan Romano, but it was a different vibe when Romano took the mound. I mean, this is a guy who had 30 plus save seasons 3 years in a row. He was the backbone of this bullpen for years here in Toronto, has over 100 saves, one of very few Canadians to even hit that milestone. And yeah, he's fallen a bit apart a bit in Philadelphia. I wish Jordan Romano all the best. But we always kind of likened him to and this is an old 80s hockey reference for the elderly out there, but we always kind of likened him to Grant Fuhr with the Edmonton Oilers back in the day, right? Grant Grant Fuhr never considered one of the greatest
Mhm.
goaltenders, but a very, very good one. And when the Oilers would score 2 goals, he'd only allow one. If they scored seven, well, six were going in. He just had this way of like he could shut the door when it mattered most, and if it didn't matter, well, he's gonna make it matter. And that's kind of what
Indeed.
Romano was. And I don't get those vibes ever when Hoffman gets on the mound. And for that matter, when Garcia gets on the mound. Jimmy's been incredible.
Jimmy has been incredible. Um, Here's my nomination. The year's 2002.
Okay.
Your closer is Billy Koch. Remember
Yes.
him?
Yes. The kid.
And your eighth inning guy, not all the time, But your 8 inning guy, like 20, 25 times that season, Roy Halladay. Does that count? Does that count? Come on, Roy
Uh,
Halladay throwing on fumes in the 8th inning.
I love that.
That's
You're
pretty
like,
good.
the last time we had this kind of 1-2 punch in the bullpen is when Roy Halladay, Hall of Famer, would pitch 8 innings for us.
There you go. That's pretty
Love
good.
that.
All
Love
right.
that. So, while we're putting positivity out there and talking the good things that has happened to this team so far this year, I would be remiss if we didn't bring up the top of this batting order. We have been, and not just us, by the way, Blue Jays fans in general, pundits, analysts have been, I wouldn't say harsh, but definitely pointing out that they are not going deep. They're not doing exactly what they were brought in to do, especially Tony Taters. And you know what? Seeing him go deep, he's now at 3 home runs on the year. Uh, Vladdy going deep 3 times this last week is massive. Watching these guys that are supposed to hit dingers in big situations start to do so, I mean, honestly, feels like a weight is being lifted. And I know that this is still a small sample size, and I know we're not out of the woods yet. Where are you at on this middle of the order? Kirky's singing, man. Dalton Varsho back in this lineup looks great, and my goodness, if he can continue to do what he's been doing since coming back in that cleanup spot, you gotta love it. Vladdy's hitting power again, right? He's hitting placatas, if you will. Tony Tater's going deep. So where are you at? Are you feeling better about this? Because I know a week ago you and I were ready to literally burn this whole lineup to the ground and start from scratch.
Yeah. I mean,
I
give me
know
another
it's
week
two
of this out
games,
of
by the way,
Vlad.
everyone. I just want to, before everyone jumps into the YouTube comments and be like, you guys are recency bias lunatics. I'm well aware,
Yeah,
but it
welcome
does
to
feel
sports
good.
fandom.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, I mean, give me another week of this out of Vlad.
Hmm.
If he hits another 3 dingers next week,
Yeah.
he's at 7 on the season. Like right now, Aaron Judge has 10.
Aaron
7.
Judge, by the way, is also putting up like the greatest numbers of any hitter maybe ever right now. And I'm
He's hitting
talking,
427 right now.
dude, I'm trying to find it here. I think it was SCTI sent it to us in our
I cannot wait for Aaron Judge to get booed in October
yeah.
when he's putting up Andres Jimenez numbers.
Okay, so Adam, listen to this. This is Judge last 154 games versus Barry Bonds's 2001 season. Okay?
Right?
So Aaron Judge in the last 154
Sorry,
games
is this just to clarify for anybody that isn't familiar? That is Barry Bonds'
peaks.
73 home run
Yeah,
campaign.
that's his peak season. That's his
Okay.
73 home run and getting walked 50% of the time, that sort of
Right.
stuff. Okay, so batting average 371, that's Aaron Judge. Barry Bonds 328. Home runs in the last 154 games, that's 106 that's 62 for Aaron Judge, 73 for Barry Bonds. RBIs 157 Aaron Judge, 137 Barry Bonds. On base percentage 498 Aaron Judge, 515 Barry Bonds. Slugging 784 Aaron Judge, 863 Barry Bonds. WRC plus 252 Aaron Judge, 235 Barry Bonds. F War 13.9 wins above replacement for Aaron Judge in the last 154 games versus 12.5 in Barry Bonds' 2001 maybe greatest year of all time. All this to say, I'm with you. We need more home runs out of Vladdy. But my God, Aaron Judge is putting one up for the ages.
Okay, so first of all, Aaron Judge better batting average.
Mm-hmm. More RBIs. Better weighted
Felt
runs
like
created plus.
felt like everything else was better for Barry Bonds.
So Barry Bonds had more home runs, a better on base percentage, and a better slugging. Aaron Judge had the lead on every other category.
Okay, but hold on. Not to be that guy complaining about RBIs being kind of an unfair stat,
Yes, it is.
but there is a factor of like independent of your teammates getting on base, just who was the better hitter. I know you're not making the case that Aaron Judge is a better
No,
hitter
I
than Barry
you don't have to
Bonds.
convince me Barry's better.
The greatest offensive season of all time, and we're saying Aaron Judge last 100 and whatever games been pretty close to the greatest season of all time
Yeah.
is still a feather in the cap. I get it. This
I
is
will say
why,
this about RBIs though, when it comes to that season with Barry Bonds, because he had 73 home runs and 137 RBIs, which means literally if there was a guy on base, they were just walking Bonds.
yes, yeah. How many
So he was
walks did he
only
have
getting
that season?
solo home runs, pretty much.
In 2001, he had 177 walks, which was not a career high. How many walks does Aaron Judge get on a year? Sorry, I'm going as fast as I can here. Aaron Judge walks career high last season, 133 walks. Um, so okay, yeah. Anytime a base runner was on in front of Barry, they just weren't even bothering. They're just saying put him on.
Hmm.
Man, okay. So I guess the other thing that caught me was all these numbers considered. Aaron Judge has a better WAR, wins above replacement over the past year of his season.
Yeah, because he plays center field here and there, right? So like the defensive
This,
end of war is always gonna mess with things.
I know, and this is why it's dumb. Like Barry Bonds wasn't playing DH; he was still an outfielder. Like I don't know. You can keep talking. I'm gonna look up how many starts Aaron Judd had in center field over this same time frame. Um, you have to
Hmm.
keep talking though.
You have to keep talking, Scott. This is the trick. I'm also looking up Barry Bonds stats here.
This is great listening. This is
Great
great
listing.
listening.
This is what happens when two
Oh my
nerds
God.
start talking and then they're like, "Hey, let's look at." This is where the amount of times, man, where I have baseball conversations with people where they were like, "This would be great on the podcast." I'm like, "We haven't talked. We're
No.
literally sitting on our phones digging up stats and then just comparing stats to each other." So,
Oh my God. By the way, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you agree. Looking at stats, so much more satisfying than hearing stats. But I also know I'm not like a verbal instructions kind of guy.
mhm.
So I have a hard time even following impressive numbers if they're told to me. But seeing them is a lot easier to follow.
Mhm.
So yeah, Barry Bonds played left field for 143 games that season, whereas in the last year, Aaron Judge played center field 105 times.
And that is going to affect wins above
But
replacement.
also DH'd 41 times.
Mhm.
Is that not a trade-off?
It's a trade-off, right?
Like, would you not rather have a guy playing left field 100% of the time versus
No.
a guy that,
Give me Aaron Judge every time.
no, I take Barry Bonds. Okay. This is where
No,
it's crazy talk.
no. I'm with you. Obviously, I take Barry Bonds over Aaron Judge.
Anyways,
We'll
point
move on.
being, WAR is a dumb stat. The
Yes.
only stat that matters is stud ranking. Let's be honest.
All of this to say, this is what happens sometimes with these hard left turns. This all started with you being like, now, if Vladdy hits 3 more home runs this next week, then I'm back on board. And I think that's where most people
You know what I'm really thinking right now, Scott? If I went by on a week by week basis, league wide with studs and a dud, and I did that for the 2001 season,
Hmm.
how many times in 2001 would Barry Bonds be stud of the week across the entire baseball? Like was he hot the entire time? Was he putting up two, three home runs a week? Or, did he have Andres Jimenez weeks where he went like 0 for 15 with seven walks? You know, I'm not going to look that up right now, I promise.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. I might do that over the weekend. We'll see.
Yeah.
That'll be an MLB Monday thing for Patreon. Okay, Vladdy, yeah, need to see more out of him. I mean, it's a great start,
Hmm.
but I mean, if Vladdy's hitting dingers, everything else feels better, right? Like that was the problem we had last year where we were complaining about the numbers we were getting from the other guys, but it was also like Bo was never around. And so
Hmm.
it's hard when everybody's thrust. It's the same thing with bullpen, right? When you've got injuries in your bullpen and then you're like, oh man, our Eric Swanson is our closer. He's not good enough to be a closer. It's like, yeah, that's not his fault, you
Yeah.
know? He's
Yeah.
a great seventh inning guy.
And this is
So
where, and I mean, it,
we're
it
at the
is a
batting
bummer. It
order.
just came out that Eric Swanson, while we're talking about him, had a
Ah,
setback in his recovery and back to tests and MRI or whatever it is. That's not what they're doing. It's not an MRI. I did just read this, but they are checking back in on his arm. So I mean, it would be really rough if this all winds up being Tommy John. I know that he felt problems right where you don't want a guy feeling problems. So there we are. But right now, this bullpen has some breathing room. Right now, the bullpen is not the problem with this team right now. So let's get Eric Swanson healthy. Cross our fingers that this doesn't result in any sort of surgery and that he is actually our seventh inning guy in the next little while.
no.
Okay. On that, we'll move along here to talking some prospects because our top two prospects, Arjun Namala and Trey Yasavich, have been absolutely everything you want these kids to be. Now, Arjun Namala started the season with the Vancouver Canadians, high A team with the Toronto Blue Jays here. He is currently at 6 home runs hit, which is tied for the lead in that high A Northwest League. And he's also the youngest player in that entire league at 19 years old. Um, to see the kind of power out of this kid at a position as that has such a premium, right? Because he's a shortstop, and all of the pundits, all of the scouts feel that this guy is going to stick at shortstop. His range isn't fantastic, but he's got a great arm and he just gets the position really well. Everyone keeps asking, is he going to be in AAA by the end of the season? No, he's not. I shouldn't just say it so definitively, but also, no, he's not. Now, could he get the call up to Double A? Yeah, absolutely. I think that come June, if he continues to dominate the way he has in Vancouver, he's hitting over 300 right now. He's putting up the power numbers. He's looking good at his position. These are all the things you want out of a kid of his age in that high A spot. Again, this is the first time he's played legitimate pro baseball. And I'm not putting anything down about the Florida Coast League. I'm not saying that that low A level isn't the same, but it's not the same. So great to see Arjun Namala exceeding like he has. And then Trey Savage is on the verge of a call up to Vancouver. He's currently with that low A Dunedin team. He struck another 10 guys out his last start here yesterday. He continues to get tons of whiff, tons of swing and miss. He is ready for this next step. So I think that the player development portion of this system that are going to make the final decision. I think that we don't know exactly what they still need to, we don't know as
Mhm.
fans the checklist that they want to see out of him,
Right.
but it's getting pretty close. All of this is very, very good news for a system that was graded very, very poorly at the beginning of the year. And we're starting to see it get hyped up a little bit more. Some of these guys are taking some major steps forward. I know Charles McAdoo, who was the return for IKF last year, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, at the trade deadline, was traded to the Pirates. McAdoo was the return. He, of course, came on the show, friend of the show here, talked his experience getting traded and stuff, but he's been looking really good in New Hampshire. So all in all, you know what? We're seeing some things out of this minor league system we haven't seen in a couple years, which is young, talented five-tool guys moving up the ranks. Get excited. It's good
Yep.
news. All right, we are getting long in the tooth here, so we're going to move on to the mailbag portion of the Friday show here. I know we didn't get to a mailbag. We got plenty of comments and concerns and complaints. Apologies, things just didn't work out this week. We almost always manage to get a mailbag in, so this is a rarity. But I did cherry pick 3 questions: one from Patreon, one from Twitter, one from YouTube, all that kind of fit in to this week. And now I want to talk about Gary Gosman real quickly here. Of course, old Kevin Gosman, a rough outing. Almost a dishonorable mention for Dud. Not quite, but we brought him up anyways. It looked bad. So there was a scenario where Caleb Joseph, after his outing, came out and he absolutely blasted Alejandro Kirk for not slowing the game down, for not going out and having a mound meeting. And then on top of it, he even question what the heck Pete Walker was doing. And these are all good questions. These are things that I was wondering watching it. Now, we don't know the details, obviously, but this was brought up on our show with Tyson from Blue Jays Nation. Tyson Shushkowicz. Really great baseball mind, and you can still watch that. That's from Monday if you're into checking out what he has to say. But we kind of got into it with this, and we're talking about this whole scenario. This rose the ire of one of our top Patreon members, not a ranking, just I would say one of our most active members. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Mish, we love Mish
Yeah.
here. She is a character. She is everything you want in a Blue Jays fan. Wears her heart on her sleeve. You love to see it. So this is from Mish. She got very heated about this whole thing. She goes, honestly, I don't think I've seen Kirky do a gauzy mound visit before. Maybe they have an arrangement. I also see Kirky look to the dugout multiple times during that inning. So maybe he and Pete have a sign for whether or not to intervene. Like you said, no one expects Gauzy to implode like that, and it feels like this one will be the turnaround like for 20 pitches, and it did. He was constantly one
Yeah.
pitch from getting out of it. It was damned if you do, damned if you don't. Pull him early. Schneider's the worst manager on the planet. Leave him in on that. Leave him in for that inning. Schneider's the worst manager on the planet. Caleb eviscerated Kirky. Might have made him feel superior, but it wasn't a good look. Sure, he caught Gauzy, but Gauzy wasn't Gauzy at the time. They started in the majors about the same time, within a year of each other, and he had a million years in the minors under his belt and was 27 in his MLB debut. By contrast, Kirky was 21 with a handful of minor league years of his debut. By the time he was catching Gauzy, he was a two-time All-Star pitcher and Cy Young finalist. Big fucking difference in experience and comfort level. Holy shit. You know how pissed off I am to be falling down this stat rabbit hole? So all of this to ask you the question, Adam.
Hmm.
Alejandro Kirk, one of the better catchers in baseball. He's probably a top 10 guy. Would you say that?
Yeah, top 10. I feel comfortable saying that.
Now, Mish might hate hearing this. I think Kirky's incredible. I think this team is so much better when he's good. Look at this last week. Honorable mention, or was he an honorable mention for stud?
This week he was honorable mention. Yeah.
Honorable mention for stud. His bat is really coming around. We've watched him just get strike call after strike call that probably shouldn't be given. One of the top framers in the league. The amount of work he's put in on keeping base stealing to a minimum is incredible. The best still make mistakes. I'm not saying that Kirk not going out to talk to him was a mistake, but it could have been. So I think that he's not infallible to a level where you can't point stuff out. I love Caleb Joseph. I love what he has to say. And it was intriguing to me as a viewer just to watch how, because I didn't see it coming. In fact, I didn't even really put two and two together. That I was more like, what the fuck is what is John doing? Why is Pete not coming out to stop this? Why are they not slowing this down? That's where I was at. And of course, Caleb being a catcher was like, well, you know what? Like, this is kind of on Kirky a little bit. Where are you at on that, Adam? Like, do you think that when it comes to an analyst and maybe an analyst like Caleb, where he wasn't a superstar, he wasn't even a star. In fact, if anything, you could probably say Caleb Joseph was a major league player for most of his career. Do you think they have the right to criticize in a scenario like that?
Does Caleb Joseph?
Yeah.
I mean, as much right as we do. I
In
mean,
fact, more of a right.
yeah, his right to criticize above replacement, I would say, is higher than ours. Um, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with it, and I think Misha's onto something that, like, there is like an entertainment value to any of those guys, whether it's Joe Siddall or good old Buck Martinez, right? Like, it's not just always about giving the best, most educated guess, right? Like, there is a entertainment factor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the reason so many of us miss a certain other catcher broadcaster that is to be remain nameless nowadays for Sportsnet, right? Like, if you
Yes.
know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about, right? Like, he wasn't the greatest baseball mind of all time
No,
or the nicest guy from what I hear, but was entertaining.
he was.
And so that's where it's like, okay, Caleb Joseph, maybe I don't know, maybe he's been received an email from the higher ups that, like, hey man, maybe a little bit hotter takes, like,
That's possible too.
there is that, like, is a factor where you just get a nudge like, hey man, like, your contract's up for renewal, and our focus groups, fell asleep when they were asked about you, like,
Mm-hmm.
do something or we're moving on, right? Like, I don't know. It yeah, I don't know. The idea of, like, throwing Kirk under the bus, and his responsibility to have slowed the game down, some mound visits, whatever. I'm going to give Kirk a pass because he is still a young catcher.
Yeah, I give him a pass
Not
too.
Salvador
Also,
Perez. It's not JT Realmuto. Like, he's not a rookie anymore. He does have a lot
Adam,
of games,
I
but
think this would be different too, buddy, if Kevin Gosman wasn't a 34-year-old veteran.
yeah, yeah.
Like at no point did Gosman,
Wave him up and say, hey,
yeah,
let's chat.
yeah, and he
I
could
need
have
a,
done that
yeah,
too. Yeah.
you're for sure, for sure. Um, and that's probably like the biggest disagreement I have with that Caleb Joseph of it
Yeah.
all is like, okay, if we're gonna say that the game needs to be slowed down and we're gonna accept that as fact, yeah, Caleb Joseph as a former big league catcher, is going to say, yeah, that's the catcher's duties or responsibility to recognize or whatever. Like, but it does feel a little bit like, yeah, Gossman's 34. Like he's the vet, you know? And yeah, I don't know. I'm with Niche
Listen,
on
when
this.
you give up the amount of runs and home runs that Gauzy gave up in that third inning, 53 pitches, setting a new record for pitches in an inning in Toronto. There's a lot of blame to go around. I don't think dialing in on Kirky is necessarily the move.
I'm now starting to question it though, like the idea of putting that on Gossman. Like that's
This is what I'm
probably on
saying.
Schneider or Walker, right? Because like it's like Gossman also you also don't want to see that like you want
Yeah.
your pitchers to just be confident even when they're struggling. You know, it's like doing stand up, right?
Hmm.
You bomb or you're bombing, just pretend you're not. You know, you tell me that every time I bomb. You're like, hey, just fucking keep going.
Yeah.
Just pretend like you're not bombing. Don't
Do your
acknowledge that you're
time.
bombing.
That's
Do
one thing
your
I do always
time.
say.
You say that, yes. Yes.
Uh,
So, but I mean, so there's like an aspect of that with Gossman where it's like, would we have felt better if Gossman was like, "Hey, come up, let's chat. I'm spiraling here. I would like
yeah.
to not spiral." You know, obviously
Yeah.
not in that many words, but so like maybe there is a little bit of like you got to protect your pitcher from himself, or like you know, it's like you always want your pitcher frustrated to be taken out of the game,
Hmm.
right? Pitches 5 shutout innings, puts 2 runners on in the sixth. You want him feeling like, hey, let me pitch out of this, right? And then it is somebody else's job to be like, no, you're done. You're at 97 pitches. The last 2 at bats were a grind. We're going to the bullpen. And you want Barrios smacking his glove saying, come on, man. I
Hmm.
got him. You don't want him saying, oh, thank God you guys are here. I'm really struggling.
Yeah.
Right. So like that makes me kind of change positions on what I was just saying about yeah, it's Gossman's responsibility to be like this. I don't think so. I don't think anybody feel good about a pitcher being like, hey, help me out here. I'm
I think
struggling.
I think the best way to go about this whole scenario is just chalk it up to a weird one. Like it was a
Yeah.
weird set of circumstances that led down a dark inning, right? So it is what it is. We'll go to YouTube here. Steve Menard, Menard, I think. Steve Menard said, what is also concerning about that so-called easier schedule in May, the Jays face the Guardians, the Mariners, the Rays 6 games, the Tigers, and the Padres. At the end of the month, we face the Rangers and the A's. Both teams have better records than we do presently. Only the Angels would be considered a weaker opponent. So that is true. Listen, we're coming out of a meat grinder of a month in April and going into kind of the frying pan into the fire here. But they just need to keep getting their wins, and against the division rivals, they've been very good this year. You brought it up, Adam. 5-2 against Boston. Yeah, they're 1-2 against the Yankees, but they're also what are they
Three
against
and
the
three and four against the Orioles.
3-4 against the Orioles. And then have we played the Rays yet?
Have not.
No. Crazy. All right. So yes. Final mailbag, mini mailbag here on the Friday show. Of course, we'll do a full one on Tuesday like we normally do. Just didn't get to it this week. This is from Jackson. He DM'd us on Twitter at Walk Off Podcast. He goes, holy shit, boys, this team is killing me. Hoping to get into mailbag. This was from a few days ago, so this was before the Boston wins, which obviously when you look at the you look at the record before those 2 wins, and I think this team was what 1-9 or something ridiculous like
Mhm.
that. It was not pretty. So I get where Jackson's coming from. He goes, "Holy shit, boys, this team's killing me. Hoping to get into mailbag with all the outfielders in this lineup and Varsho back. Feels like something has to give. What do you guys think the next move is?" So he is correct. I looked it up. These are the outfielders currently on this lineup. It's Dalton Varsho, George Springer, Anthony Santander, Alan Roden, Miles Straw, Nathan Lucas, and Addison Barger. And yeah, Barger's probably going to get most of his time at third base. Still a lot of outfielders.
Mhm.
I think there's two things that can happen here. Um, Huge Alan Roden fan, and I'm a believer. I really do think this kid is legit. I know he's struggling right now, and you know what? To to say a prospect's problem is they've struggled in their first month of Major League Baseball, this is not a new story. This is not brand new territory in baseball. This is something that happens almost every call up. I mean, my God, look at Jackson Holiday. And let me tell you, the hype around Alan Roden wasn't even close to that. So there's two options here. And I'd love to hear what your thought as to what they should do, Adam. I think the
Yeah.
options are this: you stick with Roden, you let him work it out. You hope that the top of this lineup is doing enough that they don't need to worry about that number 8 and 9 hitter in the lineup. And you just hope that the 25-year-old who has taken a step every single time that they make a promotion, right? He got promoted from single A to double A, struggled with the Fisher Cats heavily for his first month. Then he became the best hitter on that team. Same thing happened to him when he was promoted to Buffalo. And it's happening again here in the major leagues. So the options, in my opinion, are you keep running with them, you let him figure it out. Or you demote him down to AAA and let him get more at bats and get his confidence up. And when there's the opportunity to bring him back, you bring him back. The other option is Nathan Lucas has options. And he's starting to hit. He's starting to do what he always does, which is hit around 300 with no power and can play all three outfield positions. Of those things, what would you like to see most, Adam?
I think Roden needs to go down.
Okay. Grounds crew, feel free to chime in here.
I'm looking at his numbers up to mid-April. He's hitting 277 with a 744 OPS. Since April 16th, he's 0 for 29 with 9 strikeouts.
He has looked a little overmatched. Overmatched might be the wrong way of putting it. He just looks lost right now at the plate. And when I was covering Buffalo after his promotion there, he actually looks very similar. So I'm with you. I think that a demotion down to Buffalo might be the best thing for this kid. I mean, the amount of times we've seen guys get promoted, demoted, and then come back up and just look much better. Addison Barger's even a good example of that. A little bit more seasoning might be in need for Roden. I don't know, man. It's
He
a lot of
needs volume, I
outfielders.
think. He needs volume.
Yeah.
Like I just don't think we can give
Him enough at
full
bats.
full-time at bats, putting up those numbers
Yeah.
to let him figure it out. Like,
I mean, this if this was a rebuild year, dude,
yeah, we got all
keep
the time in the
yeah,
road, but
keep
we've been
strutting it
talking
out.
about this with George Springer
Yeah.
back in February and March, right? It was like, how long is the rope? How much leeway can you give to George Springer before you got to say enough's enough? Like, if
Mm-hmm.
George Springer was putting up these numbers, we would have been like, all right, enough's enough. Why
Yeah,
are we still putting Springer out
it's
there?
true.
So, gotta kind of be that same standard,
And it is May.
regardless of who it is,
It
right?
is
So,
May.
it is May. The numbers on the season,
Not
it's
good.
not like he had a great first 2 weeks and
Nope.
a terrible last 2 weeks. Like on the season, it's a 181 batting average and a 520 OPS.
Yes.
So
Not good enough.
not good enough to justify the playing time that he's going to need to work out of this. Like, I don't know. Remember how many years ago it was with Santiago Espinal and Kevin
Hmm.
Biggio
Hmm.
and that revolving door of like, hey, we have five, second basemen on this team, and nobody was really getting enough at bats to stay hot, and we're just kind of go through that again with a guy like Roden. Unfortunately, yeah, I
He's
don't think
probably
as
the
a
odd man out. I think you've talked me into
yeah,
it. I think he's the
yeah,
odd man out.
yeah.
I mean, when a move has to be made, again, it is seven outfielders. That it's a little redundant. So depending on what they want to do here, but yeah, I think that's probably the move. Feel free to chime in here, grounds crew. What do you want to see done with Alan Roden? Where are you at with him? How much do you believe? Are we just biased because he comes on the show? All of those questions, let us know. On that, we're going to wrap things up here. The Blue Jays starting a series tonight in Toronto, continuing their homestand against the Cleveland Guardians, going three against Cleveland and Ross and Mark's old team. Hopefully, they can put up some W's here. Thank you so much, everybody, for following along. Feel free to drop your comments below, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can in mailbag. I know we missed mailbag this week, so we'll do a little bit bulkier one next Tuesday. Again, at Walk Off Podcast on Twitter, the Walk Off Podcast on Blue Sky and Instagram. Thank you so much, everybody, for following along here. Take care of yourselves. We will see you on Tuesday, Monday for Patreon. Have a good weekend.
Cheers.